Hello guys, welcome to the channel. This is Baby Rule. So in today's video I want to answer a question that I got, but in a bit more detail. So the question was, is Druid the best ranger or Untamed is actually better? Comparing my Druid build with the normal power Untamed, that mostly spear Untamed if you are familiar with roaming in general. So my simple answer is Druid might be on top, but it's not like the best and no other ranger compare, because for a start we are talking about condition druids. What about bar builds, stuff like that? That's why it's a very packed question if you ask me. But comparing to the normal Untamed that most people play right now, Druid is better. In fact, if you put them toe to toe with each other, Untamed will not win. It's as simple as that. Does that mean Untamed is weaker than Druid? Not really. It comes a lot to how you play it and what you choose your build to be, like the weakness versus strengths and how you use it. And if you play Untamed very well, you can survive a Druid, even so if you can't kill him. If you both play really well, you should not be able to beat a Druid on a build like that, even if so you have the capability. So if you make the Druid slip, or if he makes a mistake, you should be able to kill him, and we will talk about how this is actually possible. But if the Druid plays very well, this should not be possible. I already made a specific video discussed the nerfs that came to the spears that really normalize it with the rest of the balance of the game, took the Untamed build down a little and even nerfed it more in PvP, and I made a video in details. I will leave it in the description. You should really check it out, and I explained why or what is the problem that creates this weakness within Untamed as a spec, like what is the open window or why it have a hole in its defense practically. So if you compare the normal Untamed, we're gonna start with this, with Druid, it's something like this. People adjust as much as they want, you go with lightning reflex, use 2 stun breaks. So whatever how it looks, 2 stun breaks or whatever, this is generally how it looks. Smoke scale for more stealth, other bit is for CC or survival or whatever. So I chose Shark to even a more aggressive version that people go with. And a lot of people go with Sword Warhorn. So this is normally how it looks in general. Different traits, you go with marksmanship for damage, you go with vicious quarry, it's whatever form, it's simply similar. Even healing skill, a lot of people go with this for more stability. So let's keep this for the example we're gonna talk on. Some people would go for Troll Ingwant for the arguably the best healing. If you go with a little bit boon version, you would go with heal as 1, stuff like that. The problem with Untamed comparing to a Druid is the normal thing, as in general Rangers, it doesn't have really a way to loosen the grip of the enemy. It doesn't have a huge defense to survive any situation. Untamed might be on top of this because of access to something like Force Fortification, and remember in World vs. World it is as strong as Release. It's 50% lower damage, and you can have a lot of boon durations. You can really adjust how the skill work for you. Unlike in PvP, it's only 33% right now. You can even nullify the damage completely and have access to more stability. If you add skills like Mutate Condition, combines that with Second of Renewal. If you go full defensive, go Second of Stone even, you will be repetitively able to break out stealth, so you will not be killable by Druid. You can be really survivable. You won't really worry about a Druid almost, because most of the action or the hold down the Druid will do to you, you will be able to nullify most of it, stealth and kite again. So you're not weak, and Druid will always kill you, it will counter you. It doesn't really work this way, no. But like I said, most people do not play this way, do not put too much into boon duration because they want damage. This is a very spike damage burst. It can one-shot people if, or couple of skills, like with couple of hits you can kill some people with a build like that, so you want as much damage as possible. But like I said, you don't put yourself into defense, you don't go focusing on a boon build, for example, and put too much cleanses. Most of the cleanse skill people don't put, like maybe this one, so it's a stun break, it's really survivable very well against condition skills. So yeah, you would see something similar like that. But the problem is, can you kill a druid? Not can you survive it? Because Untamed, like we said, depending on the build and depending on how good you want to play it, you can survive a druid. Even not simply running away, it's simply kiting around the druid with more stealth, more cleanse, even access to resistance, stability, so the druid can't really hold you down, stuff like that. But can you kill a druid? Now here the problem arises. If you play a build like that, even if it have enough ability to kill a druid, the druid will not really allow it to be enough. That's why we talk about a druid that know what they're doing. If you are very skillful and the druid you're facing is not as much as you will obviously do. But we're assuming a similar skill level. So to kill a druid, it doesn't matter what class you play, it doesn't matter what build you play, you need a lot of CC, a lot of control, combine that with enough damage. Or you need some significant level of damage, like crazy damage, that will be able to deliver to the druid. So if you're fully projectile, but the druid run turtle and staff, he will survive most of it. So, but if you can CC them and deliver that damage, or if it's purely about damage, but it's melee and you can do it from stealth, stuff like that. So the smallest level of lockdown, you can almost one-shot the druid, no problem. So like we said, it's either a significant amount of lockdown, so immobilize CCs or multiple level of CCs, like the druid really can't deal with it, or combine that with damage, or only an insane level of damage, even with small amount of CC, as long as you can actually deliver to the druid. So like one-shot mesmers can do stuff like that, safe builds, stuff like that. Or an example for the insane amount of CC is Spellbreaker, which counter druid. It's literally counter it. I don't care how many Spellbreakers you've killed, I myself normally win the fight. However, this is a skill thing. You compensate for the weakness you have. Doesn't mean you can actually kill a Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker will counter you. A lot of warrior forms will counter. Even Condition Berserker counter you, actually. Enough because it went to the too much damage and it still have enough CC and enough defenses that you can't stop them. So they don't really need to defend themselves against you, and then they can crush you. It's simple as that. Too many reflects, too many blocks, and still insane damage. Why? Take for example Spellbreaker, the ball, Mage Mid Tether, the trait that will make them, once they burst you, was the burst skill, they will actually be able to ball you back to them, they keep you around them, they can remove your boons, and on Druid you have another weakness comparing to Untamed, it's a bit different, is you don't have access to stability, and any Druid will deliberately put stability into his build, will almost knock down completely some of its damage or other sources of defenses. If you go for a core skill like Strength of the Back, if you put something like SOTO Relic on your healing skill, stuff like that, or even the Glyph of the Stars, it really like weaken the build. And having access to stability will not really mean much against a Spellbreaker that can really still punch you in the face. So you still need defenses. While he has stability, so you can CC them, you can stop them, you can't trade bunches like straight with a build like that. So this is an example of a build that actually counter you. Now back to the Untamed. Why did I say all this? Because the Untamed does not have that much level of lockdown if you play something like that. So a bit like this, a choice will have really decent CC, but the Druid will probably get out something like Lightning Reflexes, and even if you board on them with a choice like Dagger or stuff like that, it will not be enough. Even having skills like this, which can really spike some damage, and CC them with this, they can still move, so you're not really able to follow up. You can't hold them down and burst them enough, so they would die. And as a condition player, they would have a bigger health pool and a bigger toughness level, even access to some protection, stuff like that. So to really burn through this defense, you will not have enough. And the reason why a build like this is weak is whether you run sword or you run dagger, the lockdown of weapon like this is very weak. Maybe you have an immobilize here and the enemy have to be crippled first, so you would land something, a skill like this, for example, Falcon Swoop or Owl's Flight, but that means you switch enough between your weapons, right? So let's assume even you already have a cripple on the enemy from the pit or from whatever, you now can immobilize them and now you can burst immediately. So if you create a situation like this, like immobilize from the spear, this skill, or from the sword and follow it back to back, and with a skill like that you will have immobilize and daze, which will mimic how Druid actually work, and you can have enough damage. That's why I said you can kill him. But in most fights it's very difficult to land this combination. Because if the druid survive only one or two of those lockdown forms, the others will not be enough to kill him, and now he can still move freely and he can counter you. And unlike the example of Spellbreaker, even if you run out of stability, as long as you're like I said, most builds don't really care about boons, so you would have very low amount of stability. I here have a lot of boons, for example. So he just have to wait out your stability to run away. He have to immobilize you or your bit so it will not really chase him. And then he can turn back and unload insane amount of CC and immobilize on you. So you're dazed, immobilized, now you're the one who's struggling to get out. So you waste more cooldown of not actually bursting, only surviving. If Untamed get locked down, there is no way out. There is no enough survivability to get out, unless you designed your build for survivability. So when Untamed can become dangerous to Druid is when he play into this form of repetitive control and CC. So instead of something like Spear and Sword Warhorn, if you run, for example, Hammer. Hammer, you can knock down the enemy and then immobilize them and follow with multiple layers of damage. So let's say, for example, you run a Hammer Spear. You can, from stealth, do something like that, and then do this amount of damage. So as a combo, you immobilize the enemy, you combined 2 hits at the same time that already do daze, and the enemy is already immobilized. If you own the Hammer, you can knock down and go this, and then start bursting. This amount of damage is great, and even if the droids start dodging, you can do the combo we started with. So you can immobilize them, and then you can burst them like that, and you can use your bit to CC again, and that is the idea of multiple lockdown. While if you're running sword, maybe you can land the immobilize sword, and then you can have the daze from the unleash ambush skills, so it can work, but like I said, it's difficult to work. It's not that easy. But even if it worked for you, this is the only way you can kill a droid, if you lock them with enough CC. Most Untamed will not be able to deliver that, and if you play with Dagger, which is very tempting to a lot of Untamed because how much damage that can land very fast. Like if the person doesn't react fast enough, also with a single CC, like they hope they can do this single knockdown or launch, and in the duration of this launch they land enough damage to actually kill you. And that will not be enough. So take another class, for example, something like Soulbeast. So Soulbeast does not really struggle as much as Untamed with this, because it can repeat a lot of survivability against Druid. So if you run something like Duliac Stance, it have much lower cooldown than the elite skill, which is Force Fortification, really good source of stability, and not only that, it will work the same as Resistance, but this one is error removable, so even if you're fighting a Druid and another something like a Necromancer, like if you're an outnumbered fight, nothing will really keep you immobilized anyway. And Burst Stance give you the best level of defense against condition any Ranger build have. There's nothing at the level of Burst Stance, because it will keep removing 2 conditions each second, which means there is no condition bomb even can kill you enough, and it will heal you for it. So combine skills like this, and this build is insane. Even how much easier it is to keep your build next to you. The smoke skill will not be behind you and immobilized or whatever. You can simply call it and then move like that and immediately go to smoke field and stealth. So the level of control to your bit, the insurance that your bit is alive even as a defense source. And not only that, it have better damage than Untamed, which make it in roaming a little bit more easier to adapt to a different fight. And you can still play with very, very heavy burst. Even the defense that something like the unleash skills for the bit, like protection against or defense against projectile, even so they are obviously better on Untamed, and the Untamed also have the unleash ambush skills as like extra skill for the weapon, does not compensate enough if you run Spear, because Spear most of the time will not even need this level of defense. You can stealth and you can move freely again and again with something like Smoke Scale, and you can even go an extra mile and run something like the Juvenile Jaguar, which even for more stealth with Smoke Scale. So the extra layers of defense even that you can get from Untamed with a build like this will not really be this great because you already have other ways to protect yourself. Now, also something like Second Soulbeast or whatever, you get access to huge damage modifiers that if you run Longbow, you can follow up with damage after damage, and you don't need this much CC, which is the example we talked about when you either need a lot of CC to lock the droid he can't survive and then enough damage to actually kill him, or you can need some insane amount of damage and even some small amount of CC will be enough. Those are the two cases when you can kill a droid. And Second Soulbeast can do that. It can have insane amount of damage that couple of CCs could be enough if you land them well. So the simple idea, is Untamed like weak or countered by Druid? Absolutely not. Is Untamed countered Druid? Definitely not. So the general notion is usually Untamed against a Druid that's very skillful will not be able to kill the Druid. Because the choices of the builds that Untamed will run, it's not trying to counter a Druid, it's trying to be a roaming build that will fit against any build, so it will fight warriors, mesmers, whatever. If you're trying to adjust yourself against a Druid, things will be a bit different, and you can have much better adapted build against them, either to survive them or to actually kill them. But normally, power ranger builds will not do this much. Now the last form is the one that's the most scary if you play it very, very well, which is Power Druid actually. So Power Druid, like normal Druid, can pack a lot, like crazy amount of CC. It is the worst among the three when it's come to damage, so you're gonna have to play it very glassy, which is why it's very, very rare that you can run into a Power Druid anyway in the game right now. And if you're trying to play the game normally, like you're not actually trying to just counter specific builds or play a SAC build like designed for that, you would think Soulbeast and Untamed usually is better, and you would probably be correct. You're at least more adaptable. It's not just better, it's just more adaptable. Power Druid is superior when it comes to the amount of CC it can produce, combine that with survivability. What it lacks is the same level of damage. So if you're running spear with hammer or with maces or something like that, you would have, especially hammer. Hammer is very terrifying. Not many people play it while it is really, really one of the most lethal weapons in the ranger arsenal, I would say. Spear is obviously great because of it combines survivability with good damage, even if it doesn't have serious lockdown against a really experienced player. But hammer is really great when it comes to that. So you can have knockdowns, immobilize, combine that with other immobilize like entangle, running, even some of them like it's seen a rise right now running a skill like actually muddy terrain. I see people actually run it so they can control like the Untamed, immobilize even from far, and then go again and again and again with a lot of CC and stuff like that. So whatever you run your build, if you run even traps, if you run glyphs, like whatever how you want to run it, even a glyph like that with an immobilize in melee with other CC, it can really be repeated, like very lethal. Build like that is actually good because, like I said, it will over the CC, but the problem is how much damage you can actually reduce with a build like that. Can it kill a droid? Absolutely, because it is another droid. So that's something people doesn't know actually, and one of the builds that can counter droid is druid, which is funny when you say it this way, because it's offer insane lockdown, one of the best lockdown, especially against someone who doesn't have stability. So druid is not this great to lock down characters that have a lot of stability, like warriors or resistance, or that can counter the immobilize. Something like Holosmith with skill 2 on Photon Forge can remove immobilize if they run this trait, and give them even super speed so it can walk away out. So builds like that can really counter druid on a defensive level, and even on an offensive level if you're talking about Spellbreaker. Druid is the other way around. Unlike those builds, it's weak against control. So if you put enough control, like from another druid, with condition bomb, with have immobilize, and it's not easy to remove the immobilize now, and even CC them, so they're like practically stunned. If the stun breaks, they didn't remove the immobilize. If they remove the condition, they still dazed or whatever. So druids can counter each other. That if one of them doesn't have a way to break out immediately, something like right NERF reflex, when you can be immobilized and condition bombed and daze, and you will get out of all that. You're no longer CC'd, you're no longer immobilized, you can dodge again, you're free out of the area the other enemy control, stuff like that. So unless you have layers that get you out of this, If those skills on cooldown, you're dead. That's why Druid is very lethal against other Druids. It's one of the scariest thing you can fight as a Druid is another Druid. So let's check some footage that will actually explain on it what I just said in the video. So starting here, I was in camp and now Untamed came, a lot of my skills on cooldown. I didn't land the CC because I got blinded. I just need to create distance. He's coming for me, I can daze him, I can CC him. Now I just have to wait this out. I use my staff, I create instant distance, there's not much he can do, he will simply keep chasing after me. I still have my dodges, I have projectile defense and protection. I even predict that he was gonna use skills like that. He's a stealth, he have to burst, he's not a thief, he's not gonna keep kiting, resetting his stealth. So it's very predictable even what he's gonna do. And his cooldowns are much longer than me, so I can simply finish him quite easily. And that's another problem you notice with Untamed build, that most of them were run for melee style, and that is a really a disadvantage you can use against them with something like Druid. We are range, we can keep up range unless we are the one who bursting, which means he have to keep wasting even more cooldown just chasing us. It's not convenient and easy for him to land his burst. That's why I said in a normal fight it's not gonna be easy for an Untamed to actually run this burst, no matter how good the burst was or how much layers of CC it is, if you don't allow it. Which is something like Soulbeast, for example, does not share because he can run a longbow and can have some significant burst from range before they even move into melee. And with something like Smoke Assault, they can chase you much easier. Now another example comparing this. This is a fan, I would say hi if you ever watch this video. And he play my build, and like you see the fight can go on and on and on, and we do not allow each other to actually be locked down. We see what we have to get out. I still have lightning reflex, so I can get out of black hole. I create distance, he have to follow, and I will control the fight to me. We use line of sight. Now we hold each other, I go to staff, and when I go to staff I don't try to trade with him. Now I have nothing, so I have to create distance, and now I secure myself in an area with my trap. All I need is to get inside the trap again if I have ever get some damage, and I can simply start the trap cleansing. So I get now bleed, I walk inside it again. I do not just follow him, I will stay where I can protect myself, and he will play the same thing. One of us will die the moment he create a mistake and he allow himself to be locked down. One lockdown like that, the fight's over. So it can go honestly either ways. Whoever makes the first mistake will die. And even if he try to get me out here, I stay next to my trap. I'm waiting for myself to take some damage to trigger the trap, and I can protect myself. I do not chase him, because if I do, I will not have any way to get myself out. And again, once I have conditions, I can trigger the trap. I still need to the trap, but now I have another one, so I don't need it because the trap came off cooldown. I can simply heal myself. I secure even my healing skill with CCing him and using projectile defense, trying to lock him next to me, and the fight keep going on in the same form. Both of us know that this will how it work. Eventually in this fight, someone comes help me, and we able to take the camp. And this is another fight against him that it kept going again on Druid until he actually made a mistake. Like we will both free, we'll both have some of our cooldown. I dodge, he doesn't land his lunar impact, but he gave himself in the open, and I caught him in staff with another immobilize, so there's not much defenses he can do right now, and I'm able to apply a lot of damage. He broke out, but like I said, he's leaving himself too much in the open. I let his bit just get me, I didn't care, and now I'm able to immobilize him. His bit practically got me closer to him, so I didn't care to even dodge the skill, and now he's locked again. He used enough cooldown, and there was no way to get out of the immobilize. This was a mistake he did, that he left himself in the open. He wasn't able to kite far enough or get himself to a secure position, and it was a very long fight. Like I said, the first one to make a mistake will die. But look at the same player who I fought like for an hour or whatever, actually trying to fight me on Untamed, which he is a really good Untamed player, and he play like glassy form, was one-shotting and stuff. So I see his stealth, and I ride my workflow to simply not allow this damage to land, and I daze him. I continue trading because there is not enough damage actually to scare me. he has the boons. Now I just have to create distance. It doesn't matter. I will wait them out. I'll dodge. He lands the CC very well. Like, this is an example of someone really trying to luck you, but it's not enough. Not enough survivability and not enough ways to actually ensure that damage will land. And now, after he used those cooldowns, like the elite, he, on the other hand, doesn't have a way to defend himself well against me. I daze him right when he gets next to me. Another daze. His health is already compromised. I secure my healing by healing while I'm stealthed. And another CC. He just doesn't have enough cleanse to keep up with me, and the damage will not be enough. I have a lot of toughness, I can have protection, I can constantly heal. If you're not damaging enough or fast enough, I will simply... The idea to grind the druid will not actually work. You will have to either kill him or the fight will kinda keep reset itself. And that was not the only fight. Came with the Untamed again. I think maybe another build, or I can't remember the fight, how it went. So I'm playing a bit slowly this time. No workflow, mount up at the start. It just... from the get-go, another days. I didn't even allow him to land the CC. Like, we traded very well and he got locked down. Doesn't have enough, obviously, condition cleanse to survive this. Like I said, it's limited. If you get locked down as an Untamed, the fight is mostly over. It's as simple as that. And, like I said, the fight is over. Now, on the other hand, let's check a fight against a power druid. They are very, very rare to face or meet. This guy is playing very well. Honestly, one of the best I've ever fought. It's not like I fought many, but he is playing very well, and his survivability is keeping up with me insanely. I was starting the fight, as you can see, on Sharpened Stone, and even that was enough. He have enough cleanses to completely nullify my bleeding, and he's keeping attention to actually not getting locked down, so he stealths and go again, so I can't even hold him down to land most of my burst. Like I said, he was playing it very well. So this build is a bit low on damage. It really relies on grinding the enemy down. So if it fights something that can constantly healing, like if you fight a really survivable elementalist or something like a druid like myself, it becomes quite difficult to actually kill them. So the fight continued for a long time until I actually changed it to the Signet, and even that I struggled a lot with actually holding him down. But all I need is a little bit of lockdown to put enough damage to ruin his flow. So he will now have to use a lot of cleanses to simply get out of my field, and he would lose a lot of health. Will make it very difficult to keep up his health up again, continuing the same level of lockdown. But as you can see, even among those guards, not enough damage to scare me this much, as long as I keep a way to get out of his lockdown. So as long as I have lightning reflex, or I have my switch to staff, so I will dodge, I will get out immediately after the cleanse. Combine that with any little other thing, like Safety Avatar, like Healing Trap, something to actually nullify his lockdown on me. And obviously I salute, because very impressive skills, honestly, and I liked this build. So I hope this was helpful and actually got you to get a simple idea on where the Power Ranger versus Condition Ranger kind of stand in the game right now. Remember, this is also talking about World versus World, not PvP, because in PvP things can be a little different because condition builds are much weaker in PvP than power builds. Power builds get nerfed, you can say 10% or something, while condition builds is weaker 30%. The difference is significant. You cannot have as much condition duration, not from runes, not from whatever. You don't have many gears that will help you. You don't have the Trailblazer, you don't have Celestial, you don't have any of the gears that favored by the condition side, while you still have the very good power side, like Berserker, stuff like that. So that really knock the condition builds down, especially the ones that count on this, not glassy form, not hybrid build, something like my builds that use actually Trailblazer. So power builds become quite advantageous in PvP. So that's it for the video. Ask anything if you want in the comments, leave your own notes if you want, and I will see you next time.